If you're thinking about booking highlights of Japan with EF Ultimate Break, or you're already locked in and you just kind of want to figure out what you're in for, this is your spoiler-filled review. This is a highlights tour, meaning that you get to see a lot of Japan in just 2 weeks. So I'll be breaking down the trip day by day and answering all the questions that you guys DM'd me. We'll talk about the pace of the trip, the hotels that we stayed in, and then at the very end, I'll tell you guys exactly where this tour ranks on my EF list. And I'll also let you know if their daily estimate budget is actually realistic and share exactly how much I spent. So let's get started with day one. If you are new to traveling with EF, the first and last days of the itinerary are always going to be travel days. So day one is a day that you fly out of your city, and then day two is when you'll actually land in Japan. If you book your flights with EF, they'll handle all of your airports transfers, but if you choose to book them on your own, here are some really important information that you should know. If you're lucky, you'll fly into Haneda Airport, which is way closer to the city center, but most of us end up flying into Narita, which is Tokyo's main international airport. And just a warning, if you do end up booking your own flights and have to find your own way into Tokyo city center from this airport, taxis from Narita are notoriously expensive, so the more economical option is to take the train. But this was one of the most stressful experiences of my entire travel life. When I landed, I was supposed to meet a friend of mine at the airport so we could take the train to the city together, but we were in different terminals, so we couldn't find each other. Everything was so overstimulating and the signage can be a little complicated, so she ended up going the wrong way. I ended up missing my train, and it took us almost 2 hours to actually get to our hotel. So if you're planning to take the train on your own from Narita Airport, definitely research the route beforehand and just don't be afraid to ask for help. Day two is mainly an arrival and settling in day because it is a really long trip and it will also take your body a while to get used to the time difference. But if you do get in early, you will have the rest of this day completely free. Our hotel in Tokyo was the Esperia Inn Nihonbashi, which was in a good location. It was only like an 8-minute walk from the train station. Overall, the rooms were really clean. It was a bit small. A lot of rooms in Japan are actually on the smaller side, but this was the smallest room that we had in the entire trip. So if you are traveling solo, just a heads up, this hotel did have the 2 twin beds together, so you'll get really close with your roommate. But this is a plus trip, so you will be sharing a room with only one other person, except in Hakone, which we will talk about in just a bit. Days 3 to 5, you'll spend in Tokyo, which is a super exciting and vibrant city. There's just so much to do. This is probably the fastest paced part for the entire tour, so let me break it down for you. On day 3 at 9 a.m., we had our orientation, which is kind of like a debrief that the tour directors do at the start of each tour. One thing that I really liked is that our tour director Maurice made everyone stand in a circle and introduce ourselves, and then we were all assigned a buddy to kind of keep track of attendance throughout the tour, which was actually really smart and also helped people sort of like branch out and talk to other travelers that they didn't know. So shout out Mama. Then we did the classic EF intro tour, which was part walking and then part bus. We started at the Sensoji Temple, which was incredible. Then we had about an hour and a half of free time for lunch before heading to Takeshita Street in Harajuku. After we got to see the famous Shibuya crossing, and then we went to this lounge afterwards to grab drink and see a view of the crossing from above. This is something that the tour director planned. It was completely optional, and if you choose to do this, you'll pay separately for it afterwards. If you choose not to do this, you'll have some more free time before the welcome dinner, which was at this place that I cannot pronounce. If you are new to EF, there's always 2 dinners that are included with the price of the tour. The welcome dinner, which is right when you arrive, and then the farewell dinner, which is right before you leave. This tour has 1 extra dinner included in Hakone. Now here are my thoughts on the welcome dinner. This restaurant specializes in fried chicken wings, and the experience was really cultural. The place was nice. We got to sit at a Japanese floor table and the wings tasted really good. But I will say that I did still feel a bit hungry after dinner, and some of my friends that were also on the tour didn't eat meat, and they said that the options for them were really limited, so we did eat McDonald's after. Days 4 and 5 are both free days unless you choose to do the optional EF excursions, which are TeamLabs and the Shimokitazawa Neighborhood visit. I personally love the EF free days and typically choose to do my own thing because I'm just that type of traveler, so we didn't sign up for either one of those, but I did get some insider information and I do have thoughts on whether or not those are worth it. So I'll leave them in the description for you guys if you want to look at those later. Basically, if you're somebody who doesn't like to plan anything and doesn't want to be alone, book the excursions. And if you're like me and you want to plan your own thing for those days, I'll leave some fun recommendations for you guys below. The best way to get around Tokyo is by train, which once you're inside the city center, it's not as difficult to navigate as it looks, and you'll probably get the hang of it after like 1 or 2 times. On day 6, you will take a bus from Tokyo to Hakone. This is where you'll get to see Mount Fuji if the weather cooperates. That drive was about 3 hours. We made a pit stop at this viewpoint, took cable cars up to the top. It was super duper foggy when we got there, so we didn't get to see the view, but it was so cool. And the best part about Hakone was the ryokan style hotel that we stayed in that night anyways. A ryokan is a traditional inn that has Japanese style rooms with tatami mats, and our ryokan also had an onsen, which is like a therapeutic Japanese hot spring. This was a whole experience and I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. But first, you should know that at this hotel, you'll most likely have to room with 2 or 3 other people, even if you did pay for EF's single room upgrade. But the rooms are so spacious and there are no beds, so you'll be sleeping on the floor, which was actually way more comfortable than I expected it to be. I slept like a baby. We also had a traditional Japanese dinner at the hotel, which was included. The experience itself was really cool, even though it wasn't the best food that we had in Japan, because we were taught some really cool parts of Japanese dining culture. After that, we went to the onsen inside the hotel. For those of you who are not aware, you cannot wear a bathing suit or any type of clothing to an onsen. So here's a little snippet from the trip of us talking about our experience. So we just spent the last 3 hours butt naked at the onsen, but it was a very, very cool experience.
Yes.
So like, I know it's not for everybody, and then people are like, "Are you crazy?" And it was really cool.
It was really
highly
nice.
recommend.
The water is like leaving or left our skin so
Very soft. Yeah.
I highly recommend it. It's very awkward.
Freeing, but I feel like it was like a freeing experience.
It's such a great experience, and it is like an awkward thing to think about. I found peace.
She found peace, guys. Hakone was like a peaceful reset before taking the bullet train to Kyoto, which was my favorite part of the trip, by the way. And I will tell you all about it, but before I do, this is just a quick PSA to let you know that if you are a first-time EF traveler, you can save an extra $100 off your booking on top of any sale that's going on with this code right here. And if you are a repeat traveler, don't forget to use your repeat code for even better savings. Okay, day 7. I love the number 7. You're in Kyoto. This city is considered the heart of traditional Japan, and if you love both architecture and culture, you are going to love it here. We got there around noon and went straight to Kiyomizu-dera Temple. This temple is so beautiful and so interesting, and I highly recommend that you come back here during your free time to see everything, because we only had about 30 minutes in there, and then we had a lunch break. After, we took the bus to the Golden Pavilion, and that visit was really quick as well. But we did have a guide with us, which I always love because they always know all the cool facts. That night, we went out for karaoke. This is an optional activity that our TD planned, and I am a sucker for karaoke. This was such a fun activity to do with a group, so I definitely recommend that you go, even if you don't want to sing. Just go for the vibes. It was such a great time. This is the hotel that we stayed at in Kyoto. I loved it. It was super modern, had really good breakfast, and was way more spacious than the one in Tokyo. The next day, you do have an EF planned visit to Fushimi Inari Shrine. This is one of Japan's most visited tourist attractions, and this is why we decided to skip the EF guided tour and go on our own a lot earlier. This was at 8:30 in the morning, and we thought we were there early enough. If you are visiting later in the day, my biggest tip for you is to try to go higher up the trail. Most people kind of stop halfway, so the higher sections are actually way less crowded, and you'll have a better chance of getting less people in the background of your pictures. But if you go earlier in the day, you'll also have more free time in the afternoon. I did sign up to do the traditional tea ceremony for that day, which personally I thought was worth it and super cool. Day 9 is a full free day in Kyoto, unless you choose to do the optional hiking trip. I saw the word hike and ran in the other direction. We actually ended up renting kimonos and doing a photo shoot that morning, then had lunch at another conveyor belt sushi spot. These were like our go-to spots for lunch. They're incredibly convenient. You just pull up to the restaurant, get a table, order anything you want off of like an iPad or a screen, and then it gets delivered to you through a conveyor belt, which is like And then you just pay through a digital kiosk and leave. Later, we ran into this empty karaoke bar, had the best time of our lives for like an hour. Got massages, and ended up back at Fushimi Inari Shrine at night, which was a perfect way to say goodbye to Kyoto. Because the next morning we were off to Hiroshima, and I had the best surprise of the entire trip on this day. So I had no idea that after visiting the Peace Memorial and Museum in Hiroshima that we were going to Miyajima Island. How I missed this on the EF itinerary, I have no idea. But it was so beautiful and so amazing. You don't get a lot of time there, but you do get to visit the Itsukushima Shrine, which has this beautiful torii gate that looks like it's kind of just floating in the water. And there's also deer all over the island, just kind of roaming around. They were really cute. We spent the night at this hotel in Hiroshima. We didn't really do much that night, kind of just found a katsu place near the hotel for dinner, and it was actually really good. On day 11, you'll travel to Osaka, which is the last city on the tour, but on the way there, you will get to stop at Himeji Castle, which is one of Japan's best preserved castles, and it's also super beautiful and like super cool. Visiting the inside of the castle is included, but you're obviously not obligated to do it. If you decide you just want to roam around instead, you go do that. I did go inside and it was really interesting, but I will warn you, it was really crowded and really hot in there. Am I glad I did it? Yes. Do I wish they had AC? Also yes. If you go in the winter, you probably won't have this problem. We got to Osaka late afternoon, and this hotel was my absolute favorite that we stayed at, and I absolutely adore the Moxie line of hotels. 10 out of 10 for this one. Shout out to EF. Days 12 to 14, you'll be in Osaka, and the only regret that I had on this entire trip was not planning enough to do here. Basically, there's no structured EF itinerary for Osaka unless you book the optional excursions, and I skipped out on the Nara City tour, and after seeing everyone's photos and videos, I really regret not going. You have so much free time in Osaka, and we practically spent ours shopping, eating, and going out because the nightlife scene here is crazy. But if I were you, I would definitely have some fun activities planned, or like do your own food tour. For our farewell dinner, we had Japanese barbecue at this spot, and it was way better than the welcome dinner. I feel like they really accommodated people with food restrictions, and they put a huge plate of meat in front of me, so I was happy. There was a grill in the middle of the table, and you got to like cook your own meats and vegetables, so it was super fun. And finally, day 14 is the day that everyone leaves. If you booked your flights with EF, you'll be flying out of the airport in Osaka, and they will also handle your airport transfers. A lot of people who booked their flights separately ended up having to take the bullet train back to Tokyo and then transferring to another train to get to the airport. I got lucky and found a flight to Boston leaving right out of Osaka, and taking the train there took about an hour, and it was actually super easy. Now we're gonna rapid fire some answers to the most asked questions about this tour. Is there a visa for Japan? For US and Canadian citizens, no visa is required because you will be there for under 90 days. What's actually included versus extra? Included are on-tour transports, 12 nights of stays, 12 breakfasts, 3 group dinners, and entrance to any attraction that is listed on the EF itinerary. Extras are lunches, most dinners, any EF optional excursion, and any optional activity offered by the tour director. How intense is the walking / pace? The website says moderate, which I sort of agree. There's a good amount of walking, especially in cities like Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, but the pace is not too fast, and I never really felt exhausted. Like, a lot of EF trips are very go, 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 and this one had a really good pace. Do you feel like you're just checking boxes? It is a highlight tour, which means you're getting a little bit of everything, so it's definitely not slow travel. But I like sightseeing and wandering around, so I thought that it was perfect. Did Japan feel safe? Yes, this is probably the safest I've ever felt in a foreign country, and I walked around alone quite a bit. So, how much spending money should I bring, and should I bring cash? Okay, let's segue into this. EF recommends that you budget $80 to $100 per day for this tour, and this is the exact number that I actually spent. So their estimate is pretty close, but I also did not hold back. If I wanted to do something, I did it. If I wanted to buy something, I bought it. I am not a budget traveler. I'm a fuck it, book it, and deal with it later type of person. Most places did take credit card, but you will definitely run into scenarios where it's cash only, so yes, absolutely bring cash. I brought about $500 worth in yen. I mostly spent it in places that wouldn't accept cards card, and then towards the end of the trip, I had a lot left over. So I used the rest for shopping and also for the TV's tip. And now for the part you've all been very patiently waiting for. My honest, is it worth it review and where this trip ranks on my EF lineup. Yes, I think this tour was super worth it. I at least thought I got my money's worth. I was incredibly surprised by how many different sides of Japan we got to see in such a short amount of time, and also really happy that I didn't have to deal with getting from one city to another. The mix of guided time and free time was perfect. So where does this rank on the list? I have done 6 total EF trips, and Highlights of Japan is tied at number 2 with Ultimate Europe. I also think that group dynamics has a huge part to play in how these tours go, and our group was pretty special. And if you'd like to see for yourself what this tour was actually like instead of just hearing me yap about it, make sure to watch the Japan vlog next.